Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to break down the foundational terms of the Sale of Goods Act of 1930. Think of me as your personal legal translator. We are going to take these definitions and make them simple, highly detailed, and completely digestible, especially if you're just starting out as a student. And listen, we are keeping this laser-focused. We're sticking strictly to the key definitions straight from your study material. No outside noise, no unrelated topics, just what you need to know. All right, let's just dive right in.
So to keep us from drowning in a sea of legal jargon, we're going to logically organize these definitions into 4 simple building blocks. 1, the people involved. 2, defining the goods. 3, the terms of exchange. And 4, logistics and delivery.
Starting off with Section 1, the people involved. It's the simplest concept in any transaction, right? The actual people making the deal happen.
Looking at Sections 2.1 and 2.1.3, we have the buyer and the seller. A buyer is someone who buys or just agrees to buy, and a seller, the one selling or agreeing to sell. What's actually kind of fascinating here is that simply agreeing to the action legally fits the definition. The cash or the actual goods don't even have to change hands yet for you to legally be a buyer or a seller.
Now, sometimes a third party steps into the mix. This is known under Section 2.9 as a mercantile agent. Basically, this is someone who has the customary business authority to buy, sell, consign goods for sale, or even raise money using the goods as security on behalf of someone else. They're the middleman with the legal power to act.
But, what happens when things go wrong? Section 2.8 defines an insolvent. The really crucial takeaway here is that if a person stops paying their regular business debts or just cannot pay them as they become due, they are legally defined as an insolvent. And get this, that applies even if no formal legal act of insolvency has officially happened yet.
Okay, so we know who the parties are. But to fully grasp this, we need to completely understand what exactly they are exchanging, right? What is the actual subject matter?
And that brings us perfectly to Section 2. Defining the goods. Here, we're going to strictly define what actually counts as a good in the eyes of the law.
Under Section 2.7, goods refers to literally every kind of movable property. Now, this importantly excludes actionable claims and cold hard money, but it explicitly includes things like stocks, shares, grass, and even things attached to the land that you agreed to sever before sale. To put that into perspective, a standing crop of wheat that a farmer agrees to harvest tomorrow, that is legally considered a good.
Now, existing goods actually fall into 3 different buckets. First, specific goods, defined in Section 2.14, which are identified exactly at the moment you make the contract. Second, ascertained goods, which are separated from a larger lot after the contract is made. And finally, unascertained goods, which, as you might guess, are simply not identified yet at the time of the contract.
Let's make this concrete with a real-world example from your study material. Say a seller has a lot with 3 cars. If you both agree to buy one very specific Maruti Baleno parked right there in the shed, boom, that is a specific good. Meanwhile, the remaining 2 unidentified cars just sitting in the lot, those are unascertained. Make sense?
We also have future goods under Section 2.6. Think of this like booking a highly customized BS8 model car that hasn't even been manufactured yet. They are acquired or produced after the contract is signed. And then we have contingent goods. This is a specific subtype of future goods that rely entirely on an uncertain event happening before the seller can even acquire them. It's an if-then scenario.
Just rounding out our goods section, the Act gives us a couple of straightforward, everyday definitions. Section 2.12 simply defines quality as the physical state or condition of the items, and Section 2.5 defines a fault as any wrongful act or default during the process. Nice and easy.
All right, moving right along to Section 3, the terms of exchange. We've got the people, we've got the goods. Let's look at how the actual deal gets structured.
The entire foundation of this whole transaction relies on Section 4.1. A contract of sale is the core, beating heart of the agreement, where the seller officially transfers or just agrees to transfer the property and the goods over to the buyer for a decided amount.
Inside this contract, we have 2 massive concepts. The price, defined in Section 2.10, strictly means the money consideration paid. Meanwhile, Section 2.11 defines property. Now watch out here, because in this specific legal context, property refers to the transfer of absolute general ownership of the goods to the buyer. We're talking total ownership, not just a temporary or special right to borrow something.
So, you sign the contract. The absolute property is legally transferred on paper. But
how does the physical handover of this agreement actually happen in the real world?
Well, that brings us to our fourth and final building block, Section 4, Logistics and Delivery.
Under Section 2.2, delivery is beautifully simple. It's defined as the voluntary transfer of the physical possession of goods from one person to another. The absolute magic word here is voluntary. It has to be a voluntary act.
Next, we check out Section 2.3, which talks about a deliverable state. Goods are in a deliverable state when they are in such a finalized, ready-to-go condition that the buyer is now legally bound by the contract to take delivery of them. All the specific conditions have been met, and the goods are packed and ready.
But wait, what if the goods are halfway across the world in transit? To prove who actually has control of these goods, we use a document of title, which is defined in Section 2.4. This document is incredibly powerful. It acts as undeniable proof of possession or control, and it legally authorizes whoever holds it to receive or transfer those items.
Your study materials provide some fantastic real-world examples of these title documents. We're talking about a bill of lading from a shipping company, a dock warrant, a warehouse keeper certificate, a railway receipt, or a multimodal transport document.
As you can see laid out here, each one of these specific documents serves the exact same vital purpose. They are your golden ticket. They act as absolute legal proof of ownership while your goods are moving across oceans, riding on trains, or just sitting securely in a warehouse.
And there you have it. We've kept it strictly focused on the key definitions from your text. Now that you have completely mastered these foundational building blocks of the Sale of Goods Act, I'll leave you with this. The next time a complex, messy case study lands on your desk, will you be able to spot the exact legal second a casual negotiation transforms into a binding sale? I think you will. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep up the great studying.